Bonjour everyone and welcome back to my channel, The Waves of Your Soul. Today's video is gonna be my February 2022 favorites, and to be completely honest with you, I wasn't sure I was really in the mood to film. It's been a lot, hasn't it? I feel like it's been a lot. Collectively, we're going through a lot. The world is, an interesting place right now, and so I wasn't sure I wanted to film, to be honest, talking about tarot decks, oracle decks and stuff, because a part of me was like, what's the point? But at the same time, I know that when I'm feeling really down, it helps me to have little pockets of joy, little pockets of escapism. So this is why I decided to film today. Hopefully it can act as a little breath of fresh air to help you get through the day. It can help you disconnect for a little bit, and we can help each other go through this very difficult, crazy times we live in. Here we are. So today I'm going to be discussing my favorites for the month of February. So we're going to be discussing about my favorite tarot decks, oracle decks, TV shows, lifestyle bits, things like that. I do those videos every single month. I enjoy sharing what I use with you because we have a nice exchange in the comments. You also let me know what you've enjoyed this month. So I want to continue this little tradition we have over on this channel. And if it is your first time here, I want to say a huge welcome. My name is Marine, I'm a French tarot reader and a lover of everything tarot, oracle and self-empowerment related. I love cards, I love decks, I love reading them, I love showing them. So if you'd like to see any more of all of that on your timeline, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, all of the things that other YouTubers say. I would love to have you join the tide. Before I get into it, I just wanted to do a little parenthesis because something happened in the month of February that wasn't the best. On my Instagram, I had a scammer. Decided to copy my page, copy my images, etc. Images look the same, they had a similar handle name, just adding a letter, so it's barely noticeable. We're starting to sending DMs to all of my Instagram followers saying like, oh, Grand Rising beloved, I want to offer you a reading, I have great energy today, let me give you a reading, but I want some money. What is your PayPal so you can give me a donation, and all of that shit. So very quickly, a little parenthesis that I want to put out there because there's now nearly 2,000 of you, so I want to make sure that you know. First up is I would never ever DM you personally on Instagram, etc. or elsewhere. That's not what I do. I keep myself to myself. If you ask me a question on Instagram, I will reply, but I would never initiate the conversation. That's the first. Second is I would never offer a reading. I would never ask for your date of birth. I would never ask for your palm picture or your star sign or anything like that in your DMs. Like, I don't unsolicitedly ever would come into your DMs or comment, etc. and be like, give me that information. That's not what I do. I don't currently offer paid readings, and if I was to ever do that in the future, then it would be that you can get them on my website or on my Etsy or whatever I'm going to be using. I don't know any tarot reader who goes out there and try to get readings from people by asking them. Like, people go to tarot readers to get readings, not the other way around. The tarot reader doesn't go out there to offer their readings to the people for exchange of money. So if you see anyone's page or anything like that where they're following you and then DM you, those kind of things, report them and block them because it's a scam. There are so many scammers on Instagram now. It's a whole business. People are there copying pages of even nobodies like me. So, it can happen to everyone. I was like, sure, it's not gonna happen to me. Like, I could see it happen to bigger readers, but I was like, I don't have that many people following me on Instagram, so I didn't think it would happen to me, but I guess they're desperate, so be aware. It happens to a lot of tarot, astrology, etc. pages. If you see anyone DMing you, offering a reading for money, asking you for your date of birth, asking you for pictures of your palm, asking you for personal information, telling you something bad is gonna happen unless you give them money so they can give you a reading, or offering you to break a curse or a hex or whatever, block and report. It's bullshit. Another quick way to see if an Instagram page that's following you is a fake is to first check the handle of that Instagram. So for example, my Instagram handle and my YouTube handle is and always will be at the waves of your soul, that number of letter, that number exactly spelled like that, no numbers, no underscores. So that's a quick way to make sure that it's me. Another way is to look at when the people post a real Instagram page. They post like every 2 days or every day or every week when you check the date of the post. But a scammer, when you look at their page, the page looks the same, they have our caption, our images, but it's all posted the same day, because their like software or whatever that they use is literally copies the page and pasted that day. And so that's already a huge sign as well that it's a fake, because it's like nobody's out there posting everything on the 5th of January like 100 posts that day. Careful out there. There's nothing we can do as content creators. Instagram doesn't care. We've reported it, we report emails, I've sent the emails that I've managed to get from my friends, you know, doing FBI for me. I've sent them to PayPal, and even PayPal doesn't care. Like, it's just, there's very little we can do apart from warning you, apart from urging you to be mindful, report and block. And without further ado, let's get into my February favorites. For all of my favorites videos, you will find in the description box timestamps that can take you straight to the category that you're interested in. So if you want to hear about all of my favorites, you're very welcome to stay for the ride. But if you're only here for the Oracle and Tarot decks, then there will be timestamps in the description box to take you straight to that. Today I wanted to start with life joys, which is not something I have for every month, but this month I wanted to share again as a little bit of a bubble of fresh air, a little bit of escapism. My life joy this month has been really to go to the river and to go to the waterfalls that are in Reunion Island, which is the tropical island I live on right now. We are currently in the midst of cyclone season, and 2022 being 2022, it's actually the cyclone season that never ends. As I'm currently talking to you right now, we're expecting a third cyclone, even though we already had 2 coming near the shores, which is very unusual. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I mean, cyclone season here happens every year, but you might get 1 cyclone coming near the shores, not 3 in a row. So I guess it's on brand with the rest of the year, right? I'm not even questioning it at this point. I'm like, you know what do you want to throw at me? Continuous cyclone? Sure. Zombie invasion? Sure. Aliens coming to visit the planet? Why not? Nothing will surprise me anymore. My nervous system is on overload and I'm just accepting everything, honestly. And I feel like it's the same for so many of us out there. So the upside of that though is that the waterfalls and the rivers are full, like so full and so even more beautiful than they normally are. So I've enjoyed a couple of outings with my dad to go and explore the waterfalls, to go and swim in them, and it's been so wonderful and really what I needed, because like I said, the month of February was not an easy month, I mean, for everyone and for me as well. In terms of health, I've had a couple of health setbacks, so I wasn't able to leave the house that much, but when I could, being able to go to the waterfall has been so healing. And so I want to share that with you. I'm inserting right now as I'm speaking, hopefully, some images of Reunion Island waterfall. This particular one is called Langevin, and it's one of my favorite places in the world. It's gorgeous, and as you can see, the waters were so full, and also we could swim in the river, and there was actually nobody where we were. I mean, everyone went to see the main waterfalls, but most of the tourists, they don't know that if you can go a little bit lower, there's actually a lot of little pools that you can swim in. In the weekend, it's full of people who live here, who know about this place, but in the weekdays, there's not actually that many people swimming there. And so we had the whole place to ourselves, and it was wonderful, it was beautiful, it was so healing. The water was cool, but considering it's like 35 outside, it's actually so nice to go for, you know, a little bit of a dip in healing waters. And I've been so cold to spend time by rivers lately, and I've always been more of an ocean person, as you might guess from the name of my channel, but I was never a river person. I mean, I enjoyed the river, but it was never a place that I had to choose over the ocean or the forest, except this year it's actually cold to me. And I was starting to think about this and going back to my journal, and I realized that we're only in February and I found myself by the river for about 5 to 6 times already. which is a lot for me. And so the river has been calling to me. And going back on my journal, I realized that one of the spreads I did towards the end of last year to plan for my next year using the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck by Krans, which is this one. I'm sure a lot of you know it. It's an archetype oracle deck with different archetypes of places, people, etc. So you'll have things like the Eternal Child, the Gem, the Self, etc. When I did my spread, that was kind of inspired by the Hero's Journey, which is a spread you can find in the guidebook for this deck actually, and I love this deck, by the way. It's one I really enjoy. My boon or treasure for the year was actually the archetype of the river. I hadn't really clocked that synchronicity until I found myself again in February by the river, swimming in the river with my dad, having a great time, enjoying the beauty of nature, enjoying the power of the river, enjoying the idea of the river as the place where you can let your worries go, where you can cleanse yourself, where you can almost rebirth yourself. There's a strong theme with rivers, right? Around there's a lot of rituals in lots of different cultures where people go in the river and they come out anew. And this is really the archetype I've been working with, and I only just realized recently that this was one of the cards I pulled last year for 2022, so it makes a lot of sense. Here is having a will of its own. It's like I can't even control it anymore. I can hide stuff in it. There's probably like another species living in there. This is cyclone here realness. The humidity is off the roof. In terms of video games, I did want to do a quick mention because I enjoy video games, and for all of you who are wondering, my main platform that I use is Switch, Nintendo Switch Lite. This is what I have. I don't have anything else, and I find everything I want on there. It's very portable. I can play in bed when I'm bedbound because I'm having a flare-up. So the game that I've really enjoyed on the Switch this month is Monster Hunter Rise 2, which is a mouthful to say. And it's been great. I mean, listen, I have been spending so much time playing Zelda Breath of the Wild as well, because this was one of my Christmas presents, and I love Zelda Breath of the Wild, but I finished all of the main quests, and most of the side quests I have the final boss to beat, but I know that once you beat him you're back to playing the regular game. Really nothing really changes in the game, so I've kind of been delaying that, and I know that there's gonna be a second Breath of the Wild coming out towards the end of the year, I think November. Kind of waiting for that to come out, and I will continue playing Zelda when we're closer to the release of the second one, because then it will be a nice tie-in. So to kind of keep me busy in the meantime, I discovered Monster Hunter Rise 2. I'd never played Monster Hunter. It's a franchise I didn't know. For those of you who don't know, like me, what it is an RPG based game where you play a main character that you can kind of design according to what you want to look like. And this particular character can go out in the world, fight monsters, collect monster eggs, and then train them, raise them to be his monsters' pets. So it's kind of like Pokemon, but with monsters. The particularity of this game is that it is a turn combat style, so it's not like Zelda where you're fighting as and when live, but it's actually I think they call it turn combat, so it's your turn, then it's my turn, then it's your turn, then it's my turn. And I was never familiar with that type of game before. That's not the kind of gameplay that I'm used to playing. So at first it was a little bit of a learning curve, and I didn't think I would enjoy it, but really great storyline. It's really sweet. There is a lot of narrative, etc. And the idea that you can go into monsters' nest to collect monsters' eggs, and then the excitement of wondering what monster you're gonna get this time and collecting them reminded me of my youth playing Pokemon, and so I really enjoyed that. That's the main part of the game that I enjoy. I will say the beginning of the game is a bit repetitive until you get the main storyline going. There's about 1 to 2 hours of gameplay where it's just like, I'm getting bored. So you have to kind of power through that until the kind of main storyline emerge, where your main monster kind of comes to you, and that's when, even though you can have monster before, that's when it becomes really interesting to me. That's when the storyline gets moving, and yeah, I've really enjoyed it. If there's any other Switch players out there, let me know the games you're enjoying. There was a sale on February for a lot of Switch games, so I've picked up The Witcher, which I am so excited about because I love The Witcher TV show, so I'm very excited to play the game. And another one that I picked up was Pikuniku, which is an indie game that's very sweet. It's more platform kind of based. It's not at all about fighting or violence, etc. It's more, I think, reflection and also cute. And those are kind of the two games I enjoy. I enjoy adventure RPG, you know, where you are going on adventure, otherworld, fantasy, etc. But I also love cute games where there's no pressure, there's no fighting, there's no time limit. It's a nice self-care break. That's kind of my taste, if you were wondering. And if you have, again, any recommendations, I am all ears. There is one TV show I absolutely loved in the month of February, and that was Boba Fett. I think it's called The Book of Boba Fett on Disney+, which is of course part of the Star Wars world. It is so good. I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I love it. I love anything Star Wars. It's something I watched with my dad when I was little. He introduced me to it, and it's like a nice family tradition, so it has that kind of sweet nostalgic side to it, as well as it being a really good TV show, because I feel like Boba Fett, which is based on one of the key kind of old school characters from the Star Wars franchise, is actually a great introduction to Star Wars, because I feel like the way they filmed it, if you don't know anything about Star Wars, you probably could still enjoy the storyline. You would miss out on a lot of the subtleties, but I mean, it's not unwatchable. It could be like the one that you watch to help you get a taste for Star Wars, and then of course for people who know the Star Wars universe, who love it, it is amazing. I loved it. I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard some people saying it was awesome, some people saying it wasn't good. Honestly, I'm like, what more do you want? It was awesome. There was something happening in every episode. We got to see more of Grogu, which is always a plus, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, if any of you out there watched it, what was your thought? I thought it was great. Even if they do just one season, it's fine by me, because the story kind of feels rounded up, and now we can move on to The Mandalorian and all the other spin-offs that they're planning. We need a Grogu Taro, right? Like, honestly, who's out there making a Grogu Taro? I know there's probably gonna be copyright issues, but I actually have a Star Wars Taro, which is indie, which is made by a Star Wars fan. So this is by the person that goes by at Star Wars Tarot on Instagram, sorry. So this is a Star Wars inspired tarot deck. Of course, it's not the official tarot deck because, you know, again, there's copyright issue, but he's released a few, and I think he releases a few like copies. Just check out Instagram at Star Wars Tarot. I'll put the link below if you're interested. But this was created before all of those new franchises, like before The Mandalorian, and so we don't have any Grogu in there. I'll put the link to that one below. I enjoyed it, and you know what? I enjoyed using it whilst watching The Mandalorian and Boba Fett. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, if you know anyone out there of a Grogu, some like tarot deck, I'm all ears. I want to know. Okay, let's move on to Oracle decks, and then we move on to tarot decks, because this is going to be a huge category. I have a lot to talk about. In the month of February, like I said, was, you know, pretty flared up. I had quite a lot of time stuck in bed, and so I had a lot of time to explore, study, and discover some decks that I had or some that I received, just to keep myself busy and not going crazy, to be honest. So the first one I want to mention that I've been really enjoying discovering in the month of Feb is one that I very recently got, and this is a French deck, and it's called L'Oracle de la Sagesse Gauloise. So this is a French deck, all in French, and it's actually about Celtic Gaul. So a lot of the oracles are there around Celticism, I don't know how you call it, Celtic mythology. They are 99% of the time based on Irish, Scottish, British Isles kind of Celtic mythology, Celtic history, etc. Makes a lot of sense because that's where a lot of the market is, and that's where a lot of the history remain, and that's where a lot of the historical evidence, etc. of those particular beliefs, that particular religion remain. We, though, in France also obviously had Celts. You know, we were called Gaul. France was called Gaul before the Roman invasion and Catholicism, etc. Celts were living in France, but it's very hard to find kind of information on that, because when the Roman invaded, they kind of meddled a lot of the pagan kind of beliefs with their Roman gods, and it created kind of this hybrid of religion where a lot of the Celtic, Gaulish gods were assimilated with Roman gods who were also inspired by Greek mythology. And as you can imagine, it creates this very complex kind of history, complex kind of meshing. And on top of that, once Christianity becomes the norm in Europe, etc., all of that is suppressed, destroyed, or put under the carpet, or deformed, etc. And so there's not that much left from Gaulish Celtic history, and thus it was really fantastic for me to find an oracle deck that was dedicated to that. This might not be super interesting for people who don't speak French, but I thought I'd share it because I thought it's interesting. Like, I find it interesting when people talk about something that's about the story of their country, etc. So it comes with those particular cards. There's quite a few. It also comes with this huge, gigantic guidebook. It's great. Honestly, this guidebook has a ton of information, and what I really enjoyed about it is that it's written by someone who has a PhD in history. So this is someone who is both passionate about mythology, history, etc., and for whom it's their job. So the bibliography is actually full of actual manuscripts and books, etc., historical books that you can research. So you know this oracle deck was created out of facts, and then inspired, of course, to give a spiritual meaning. But I really appreciate this kind of being rooted in facts and history, with reference to paintings, cups or jewelry, etc., that were actually found in France, where links were made, etc., to understand how the Gaul Celts live, the kind of gods they worshipped, the kind of life they led. And so this is what this oracle is all about. These two people, so the two creators of this are the same creators of an oracle I've already shown on my channel, which is called l'Oracle des Kami et Yokai, this one is about Japanese mythology. And so for those of you who have seen that oracle, if not, don't worry, I will be showing it in my videos dedicated to French decks, which has been highly requested on my channel. So I'm just waiting to feel a little bit better so I can tackle it, because it's gonna be a monster one. It's gonna be great, but just be patient with me. The artwork, though, you might recognize because it's fairly similar, and I love this particular artist style. I think it's gorgeous. I think the way that they have inspired themselves from actual historical artifacts to create representation of divinities, of stories, fables, etc. from Gaulish Celts. It's hard to speak in English about French history. I'm sorry, but I think they've done a fantastic job in terms of illustration. I think they're beautiful. I think they're so enchanting and just really beautiful. And I've been learning so much with this particular oracle deck. It's been fascinating. It's been more of a study project for me, to be honest, than an actual tool for divination or self-growth. I've not really done readings with it because so far it's been all about getting deep into the guidebook, reading a couple of the reference that they mention in their bibliography, and just enjoying it for the kind of learning experience of it. And I think once I will be more familiar with all of the cards, I will start to use it for more, readings, spreads, etc. But it wasn't what called me at first. Really, what I wanted this deck for was to learn more about my history. So it was interesting to explore because it's something that we don't see a lot in oracles. Like I said, normally it's always like British Isles, kind of Celtic mythology, etc. There are similarities though, and this is where I wanted to mention something that kind of stood out for me. And this is linked with the talk I was having earlier about life joys, about spending time by the river. So Sulis is actually a goddess. She's a very interesting and complex goddess. She is a goddess of the water, of rivers, of healing, wellness, illness. She's been linked to health a lot. I discovered this goddess about 2 years ago, apart from another oracle deck. I forgot the name now. I'll put the link of it. I'll put the name of it below. And in that particular deck, they link Sulis with Bath, the town in England where there's like a lot of hot springs, where there's a whole history of people going in the hot spring to heal their ailment. They write petition in the water also to both heal their ailment and also to kind of punish the people who have wronged. In Bath, she's also linked with the goddess Nerva, which is linked to Athena in Greek mythology, because again, when Roman became and invaded England and France, there was a strong assimilation between local kind of pagan gods and kind of Roman gods. The Roman found it easier to link all of the Celtic gods with Roman gods, so people would kind of stop worshipping just their own, and it would be easier to kind of control the population. It was around the time when I was going through the biggest kind of health challenges I was going through, and so this goddess was an interesting take, one that brought interesting messages, and I enjoyed studying about her. But the fact that it was so focused to Bath, that's so far away from where I live, even though I lived in England before, I've been to Bath and I loved it, I just felt disconnected from that particular story a little bit. And then in this particular deck, as you can see, there is a Sulis card. And so that totally opened my conception of that particular goddess, because there's actually evidence of worship of Sulis in French in certain springs, in certain rivers, etc., where there are signs again of people going there to worship this goddess, to heal their body, to heal their eyes especially, and also to again write petition for making justice, for getting justice done, for asking for punishment from wrongs like people stealing from them, etc. It's just been an incredible synchronicity to have kind of Sulis come back into my life in readings and spending so much time by the river, and so I've been really enjoying that particular synchronicity as well. And so this is l'oracle de la sagesse gauloise, which literally translates to the oracle of the Gaulish wisdom, and so that's been my main study project for the month of February that I've enjoyed. The second oracle deck I want to mention that I've been really enjoying in the month of February is the Modern Goddess Oracle by Essany. This is a deck I've had for, I'd say, a year and a half now. I backed it when she first created it. It's still in print. It's an indie oracle deck, but you can get it straight from Essany's website. So here is the box, and as you can see, it is Modern Goddess Oracle, so it's all goddess from all around the world, but depicted with a modern twist. And I really enjoy this oracle deck. I loved it when I first got it. I used it a ton, and then you know how it is, we get other decks and so we use other decks, etc. But in the month of February I felt really called to bring that back out and to work with it again. Here are the backs, which honestly are like the bomb.com. How beautiful is that? So you're gonna have a depiction from each of the different goddess, and as you can see, they are very colorful, they're wearing modern clothes. There's like goddesses from all around the world, so that's really interesting. It's inspiring itself from lots of different mythology, as well as what I really enjoy in this deck is that there are a few cards that are archetypes, not just goddesses but archetypes. So for example, this one here is the Mystic, we have the Guide, and so not only is it a goddess deck, you also have a few cards to work on archetypes, and so you could either mix them in or separate them and only work with the archetypes or only work with the goddesses. But I love the versatility of this deck. I love the goddesses being given this kind of modern twist. The guidebook written by Essany is fantastic. It's really so chunky. It is full packed of information. You have a message around who that goddess is. You have an upright message, a shadow kind of reversed message, and you also have kind of questions for both sides to help you journal about things, to help you think about things, to kind of take you further along your journey with that goddess. I find that it's easier for me to work with one archetype or one goddess a week or even a month sometimes, purely because there's a lot to unpack there. I have tried to do bigger spreads with this deck, like pulling several goddesses, etc. It is very insightful, but it is a lot. And when I'm not feeling like I can take on that kind of work, one a week or one per moon phase, so for example I'll pull one for the full moon and one for the new moon, or even one per month, has been really helpful. The kind of way I tend to do it is which is the goddess that is showing the energy that is waning into my life, so the one that is like going away, retiring, moving at the background of my life, and then I'll pull one for which is the goddess or archetype that represents the energy that is gonna be at the forefront, that is gonna come more into the light for this particular period of time. And so having one for the energy going out and one for the energy coming in is the way that it helps me the most to work with this deck. I usually always read what Essony has to say in the guidebook because, like I said, it's chunky, it's great, you've got a ton of information, you have keywords, symbols, affirmation, meet the goddess, which is, like I said, a brief explanation about who the goddess is, and then divination meaning, shadow meaning, and both work with that goddess or heal with that goddess. So depending whether it's kind of shadow reversed card or if it's kind of upright in the light. The archetype that I'm currently working, the one that I pulled, is the badass, and I love this card and I am so here for it. So that's kind of like standing right now in front of my desk because that's the energy that I am embodying right now. Okay, let's move on to our final category, which is going to be tarot decks. The main tarot deck I worked with in the month of February was a Happy Tarot by Los Scarabeo. So this is a mass market deck, you can find it anywhere. It's Los Scarabeo, so it's fairly affordable. It cost me less than 20 euros, and it was in one of my recent deck hauls, and I just got it for when I needed a slice of happy. And let's just put it this way, February was definitely a month where I needed that. I feel like a lot of us did. This very much follows the RWA system, the traditional Rider-Waite deck, except it is full of little kids living their best life in some kind of candy land, full of ice creams and sweet treats and candy and just chocolate and all of that. So the name, the Happy Tarot, is perfect because this is full of happy vibe. However, it is not as sweet as what you could expect, because just because it's full of little kids living their best life in some kind of candy land, it doesn't mean that the emotions corresponding to each of the card in the tarot deck are not there. For the Five of Cups, you still feel the grief and the sadness from that kid. The kid actually spilled their ice cream. But when kids spill their ice cream, they get sad, they cry, it's hard, right? It's disappointment. So I feel like the emotions are still there, even though it's kind of sugar-coated. It's not actually as sweet as people might think, but it was very easy to read with. It was very joyous, it's full of color, those little faces are so cute, it really makes my inner child happy. It reminds me of books I was reading when I was a child and like, you know, cartoons, etc. And it's just very sweet and very fun and very light-hearted and everything I needed for the month of February, with that sweet inner child vibe that really was what I wanted at that time and what I needed for the month of February. Like, this was giving me the life juice I needed to get through the month, and I'm so grateful for it. I've not edged it yet. I've seen some people edge it in purple because of the backs, but the front of the cards are not that purple. There's, apart from which suit is it actually? I think the wand suits are very pink and the sword suits are very blue. So the elements are kept, like the pentacles are very green. You know, there's in terms of elements, it's all there. It's cleverly done, honestly. I don't know how to edge it. I don't know if purple would go with the front. It definitely would go with the back, but I'm not sure. But you know, that's a first world problem. It's a Los Scarabeo deck, so the guidebook is very small. It's a little white you know, what you call them, little white guidebook, super small. But what's interesting is that everything is written again with a happy sense, because this is a happy tarot. All the messages are actually happy. The last sentence for each of the card is, you can find happiness through. So for example, for Nine of Pentacles, you can find happiness in self-sufficiency. The King of Pentacles, you can find happiness by giving or seeking fatherly advice. So all of the kind of meanings in the deck are, the last sentence is always, you can find happiness by considering the month of February, and you know, I'm sure for all of us, we need a lot of happiness, and you know, the continuing March, April, who knows what's gonna happen. I think we could always need help with finding happiness in the ways we can. Like I was saying at the beginning of the video, finding pockets of joy is important, and that deck helped me to do that, so I'm really enjoying it. Just a quick mention, but I am still studying the Tarot Illuminati, the deck I've used a ton over the years. It's a deck I do mostly creative reading with. Since the beginning of the year, I've decided to kind of get the bigger, larger guidebook by Kim Huggins that I personally got on ebook because it was easier for me to get, but I found out recently from you in the comments that you can get on paper version as well. It's called The Complete Guide for the Tarot Illuminati by Kim Huggins. This is a mass market tarot, by the way, so when you get it, you still get a very nice guidebook, but it's just that there's an extra bigger one you can get on the side, and I've been studying that extra one. I've been picking a card every 2 days or 3 days and noting it down in my journal, like noting down some of Kim Huggins' thoughts, etc. And it's something I'm not taking like pressure on myself to do. I'm not saying I need to finish to study it by the end of March or the end of February, etc, etc. I'm just doing it when I feel like it. It's not stopping me from using the deck when I want. It's just something I do for fun. I write it all down in my journal and I take it 1 or 2 cards at a time, and it's been great. It's been really interesting. There's a ton of information in that book. I really enjoy Kim Huggins' writing. She's giving you a lot of points to think about other tarot decks, not just this one, so knowledge you can take with you for the rest of your tarot journey, and it's been really enjoyable. And this particular deck is a French version, but you can get it mass market in English. Very colorful, very bright, very in your face, very not subdued. This is very Aries vibe, I think. Very Aries or Sagittarius to me. Very bold, bright, fiery, like let's go. And I enjoy it. My Aries self is like living for this deck, so that's been definitely a fun project I'm continuing on doing, and I will continue to do so in March. Finally, the last tarot deck I wanted to mention that I've really also enjoyed in the month of February has been the Dreaming Way Tarot. So my copy is trimmed and edged. This is a mass market deck that you can get everywhere, Book Depository, Amazon, etc. But I did trim my copy, and this is one of the earlier deck I purchased. Like maybe this was in my first 5 or 7 tarot decks I ever got. When I first got this deck early in my tarot journey, it wasn't the easiest for me to connect, even though it follows very well RWS, but with a beautiful kind of watercolor artwork. I love the artwork, which is why I got the deck. I love the clothes, the fashion is amazing. People are wearing these billowy clothes with quirky boots, and there's a lot of texture in the clothes, like the fashion. My fashion heart dies for this deck. I love the outfits. I love the mood, those kind of muted gray, pastel colors, earthy colors as well. There's a lot of green in this deck, so I was living for the artwork, but it wasn't the easiest for me to connect to in terms of energy. Like, I could read with it, but I didn't necessarily enjoy reading with it because the messages weren't coming to me easily. But as time went by, I have definitely found my groove with this deck, and now it's a deck I consider like a solid workhorse foundation. I can pull it out and it's always gonna deliver. I think that's kind of one of those where time was the key here, like time was the teacher here for this deck. And again, not because it was hard to learn, because there's nothing to learn here. It's RWS, the symbols are there. Now it's one that when I'm feeling overwhelmed or underwhelmed, I know I can go to. And so in that sense, in the month of February, it was very helpful. Like the Happy Tarot was the one I could go to for inner child healing, a little bit of a hug deck. Still delivers impactful reading, but you know, that kind of very like happy, joyous vibe. The Dreaming Way is a lot more down to earth, a lot more grounded. The Dreaming Way reminds me to come back to my body. The people are oftentimes moving and their expressions are great. So for me, it's a great one to come back to my body, to come back to the present moment, to connect back with myself. And it's a very great reader for practical readings, like day-to-day advice. I love this Page of Wands so much. It's beautiful. I'm in love with that kind of like bedsheet fashion. Like category is bedsheet glam on the beach. I'm here for it. So yeah, I love this deck. It's a true companion for me. It's been there throughout the years and I've really enjoyed pulling it back at this month. It's one of the earliest decks I've modified. So is it well trimmed? No. Is it well edged? Not really. Does it bother me? No, because it's part of my tarot journey as well. So, my friends, this is it. These are all the tarot decks, oracle decks. What did we talk about? TV show, guidebook, video games, life joys that I have enjoyed in the month of February. I hope that you are having a as good as possible month of March. I hope you're taking care of yourself, more importantly. I hope you're being kind with yourself. If you have made it this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I know I wasn't very present in the month of February and I am sorry, but I'm hoping, you know, March is gonna be a little bit easier for me. But I just want to say a huge thank you for everyone who's still showing up and watching all the videos and just being awesome human beings. And until my next video, as per usual, I want to wish you a happy, healthy month of March. I'm sending you so much good vibes and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye!